Hello everybody, this is going to be our product overview video for our new LE line, limited edition line of our arcade machines. This is a 2-player model. I can also do a video for the 4-player model. Basically they're the same unit other than the fact that on the 4-player there's a 4-player control panel, and on a 2-player obviously there's just a 2-player panel. So I'm going to go over some of the hardware that is inside the machine. I'll go over some of the software and stuff like that. Yeah, again, I'm working without a script, so so it is what it is. I'm going to do most of the work with a keyboard, only because then I don't have to stand in front of the camera and stand in front of the machine. From a hardware standpoint, this unit has all the parts on this machine are brand new. So this has a brand new AMD Ryzen, I want to say 5600 that's in it. So basically what I do is I baseline test the machines to say, hey, this is what it's able to play with this. If we want to play newer gen machines, okay, we can do that. We just need to add video cards and stuff like that. So everything that this system plays, it can play with the onboard GPU. AMD has a really strong onboard GPU compared to the Intels, which is why I'm using an AMD system. I don't know for sure. I suspect it's somewhere around a 1050, a 1060 is what it has in here. So all our Technoparrot games, up to PlayStation 2, GameCube, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, all that stuff, it's just all running off the internal GPU. If customers did want a beefier system, I know for a fact if we put a 4060 in there, it doesn't even need a 4060. I'm just saying if we put a 4060 in there, that for sure is getting you into the realm of Nintendo, the Wii U system, Nintendo Switch, Wii U, that generation of console. I think this also plays PS3, I think. I'm going to have to double check. But basically up into that range, let's call it for sure into the PS2 era and stuff like that, we're definitely good without a GPU. We can see that we have, on the LE model, we'll have backlit, like backlighting, cabinet lighting. So we'll have lighting back there. I'm recording this during the day, so obviously it's not spilling out the light as much as possible. The lighting on my machine, how I have it is, it's mainly meant to, when it's pressed up against the wall, it's mainly meant to give you kind of like an ambient halo around the machine. It's not meant to fill your entire basement with lighting. That's not what the lights are meant to do. We can see that we have an LED trackball on the LE models as well. And then you can't tell at all, unless I unplug it maybe, the marquee is also lit up. So if we were playing in the dark, this is going to look basically as bright as it is now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7-piece artwork. So you have your side panels, you have your front kick plate, the admin panel, control panel. You have under where your speaker is, and then also the marquee as well. The only thing that's on this machine that is not quote unquote stock for my LE models are the dual light guns and the third dedicated 4-way controller. The customer asked for those added to the machine. Those are add-ons that I do on a lot of my machines. But everything else you see is going to be completely stock on the LE model machine. We've got dual, 2 different wireless game pads. So those are set up. Basically, my systems have been and always been retro focused, right? So I've always kind of said, hey, if you can't play it with a joystick and 6 buttons, why is it on the machine? No one wants to play N64 on a joystick and 6 buttons, or, GameCube or something like that, because you really need your, I think that's called an analog. You need your analog sticks and stuff like that. So because I'm putting better computers in the systems, I said, hey, now we're able to add those newer systems, newer games. We might as well add the controllers onto it so that you can flip between the games. And then when there's games that you need the controllers for, you can grab the controllers. I'll go through it in more detail, but we can also use the controller for all your arcade titles if you choose. Definitely don't have to. It's meant to, obviously, for a retro feel. It's meant to be the joystick and the 6 buttons. But for example, you know what? Let's just talk about it now. I'm just waiting to see how long it is for the competition to steal my idea. So I have and always have made 2 separate versions of MAME on my cabinet. MAME are all your arcade titles. So my first version of MAME will play in full screen. So if you were to play a game like Ninja Turtles and you were to play through this MAME heading, right, just a regular MAME, all of these games will fill your screen completely, right? So on a game like Pac-Man, for example, looks absolutely terrible. You can see how it's meant to be just in the middle there. Well, the full screen mode will stretch it completely and it looks like absolute garbage. So there are certain games that are fun playing in widescreen. People who are aspect ratio snobs, they're always going to want to play in the other version, which I'll get into. In this version, because you're going to play more, in my opinion, if you're going to play 4-player games, you're going to play it in this version because it fills the full screen. And then you'll generally have 2 people standing on the side, so you want to have all your graphics and all your video on the full screen. So if you were playing Ninja Turtles in 4-player on a 2-player machine, you'd have 2 people that can use the sticks, and then I've calibrated MAME to use your 2 game pads as player 3 and player 4. It's automatically set up, so if someone wanted to join it as a third Ninja Turtle or a third person on NBA Jam, for example, they could just pick up the game pads and then it would be automatically configured for player 3 and player 4. If we back out of here and we go into the MAME, I called it MAME 4x3 just because that's, common aspect ratio on CRTs. If you go into this and then you were to load up a game, what you would have is it would preserve the normal aspect ratio. So on a game like Pac-Man, you would just have the game in the middle, and then on the sides, it would fill in graphics, depending on what the game is and stuff like that. So with Mortal Kombat, it might have the players listed and their, different moves and stuff like that. And all that is bezel art that you can download and change and stuff like that. Hey, I like this bezel art better for Mortal Kombat or something like that. So all that stuff is completely customizable if you choose to. With this version, I have it set up because, again, you're probably not playing players 3 and 4 on a screen that's only filling up half your monitor. On this one, I have it set up so that your game pads are player 1 and 2. So if you did decide you want to play this, Astro Blaster, for example, it's going to fill out the screen with its preserved aspect ratio. But then you could also say, hey, do I want to play it on the controller or the arcade controls, or do I want to play it on the gamepad? Similarly, I have a bunch of the old emulators. So for example, Nintendo is going to run in the same emulator that's running 4x3. So it's not going to stretch your Nintendo games. They're going to be in the middle. It's going to have nice Nintendo decals around the machine. And then if you're more comfortable playing Nintendo games, like the way they were originally played, you could play it on your wireless gamepad and stand in front of your machine and play those games wirelessly. The third joystick, which is locked into 4-way only, that's specifically for customers who want to keep the natural feel of a 4-way only joystick when you're playing games like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, things where the games were locked into 4-axis, just up, down, left, and right. So then you can't move into the diagonals. So then games like Pac-Man will play better because, if you're moving and you're on the diagonal, it might not know, hey, do you want to still be going left or do you want to be moving forward? So you could still be going left when you actually wanted to go up, whereas the 4-way, it's gate restricted. You can only go up, down, left, and right. There's no diagonals. It only moves in those 4 directions. So you do have, or you can get a dedicated third joystick, which is 4-way only, the button, the joystick, and 2 buttons, but you could also map it. So if there happens to be a game, where, you need more than those buttons, you could always map it. So on that game specifically, you have this joystick and you could always use the player 2 buttons if you wanted as well. What else do we want to know about hardware? Oh, so the LE system, again, I don't know anyone else who does this. I do this basically on my V-Pins. A lot of customers really, really like it on the arcades. So what this has is it has the surround sound feedback built into the machine. I have different levels of it. My standard one is it's basically just, let me see here. Do I have 2? Do I have a sub channel? Give me a second. I'm thinking out loud. Nope. On this one, it has Dayton Audio HDN8s installed. So that's low, mid, and high. So it's basically a full range speaker. Am I lying or do I have 2? I lied. HDN8s for your mid and your high range sound. There is a separate bass channel for bass kickers, right? So this machine standard will have 2 bass kickers and then two HDN8s. It's just the model name. It's a high-end bass shaker. Basically what they do is it turns your control panel itself into the speaker. So not that you're going to be able to tell from here, but if I turn the sound up, all the sound that we're hearing is actually from the reverberation, the control panel acting like a speaker and vibrating and creating that sound. Because this is now the speaker, this control panel is vibrating. So while you're playing the game, you're feeling all the bass and all the sound, all the music, if you're playing Street Fighter, all the kicks and the punches and all that other stuff. That sound is all translated into mechanical. I might be making things up. Mechanical energy. You can physically feel it. It's like a rumble pack in your controllers, but it's a rumble pack for your control panel. And it's done through the sound. So it's basically always rumbling. It's not just on specific actions or specific movements. Every single sound that comes out of the machine, all that comes through the control panel. And then your control panel is always rumbling. And you can turn up and down the bass and the bass separately and stuff. I've realized I lied again. I now remember this one does not have a separate bass channel. The HDN8s are full range speakers. I have an upgraded sound package where you can have 2 HDN8s, 2 bass kickers, and then 2 separate speakers up here. So you have independent audio channels. So if you did not want your surround sound feedback on at all, then all your audio would come through this channel. If you only wanted surround sound feedback, then you could turn it on and all your bass, mid, and high-end sounds are coming through your control panel. You can also have it where you have both channels running at the same time without lag, so the audio is not, lagged behind each other, which is sometimes an issue with Windows if someone doesn't know what they're doing. But I have it set up so that you can have it so that the audio is coming out through here. You can blast that and it gets really loud, and then you can have the audio coming through here, and then the more you turn it up, the more you're feeling from the control panel. So if you were to turn up the control panel on a game that had a bunch of bass and stuff, these controllers are going to vibrate and fall off the cabinet, basically. As I had mentioned, this system they're tucked under here. So the way that I build the holsters for the machine, if you were to look at the cabinet, you would probably not think that there are guns on the system. The gun holsters are built into the cabinet. That way we're not, on the side of the machine wrecking our vinyl and stuff like that. We don't have wires hanging out. The wires go down into the arcade machine. When you want to use the guns, you can pull them out of the holsters. The wire comes out. The wires are crazy long, so you're, if you stand back 6 feet or so, you can shoot on the screen. Because it has a more powerful computer in it, I'm just going to wait for the attract mode to stop. Let me just see here. So there's a bunch of different systems over and above MAME that play guns. I'm constantly adding to it. I know there's Xbox games that have guns. I don't think I currently have that set up on here. Model 2, so that gives you your House of the Dead 1, Virtual Cop 1, Virtual Cop 2. Model 3 is Star Wars, which I don't think I've ever played with the guns, because I think it's meant to be with a yoke. I'm not 100% sure. Lost World Jurassic Park is really the only game that Model 3 runs in terms of the guns. Sega Naomi, so this is through Sega Naomi, Sega Thomas Wave. That's going to be your Lupin the Third, Maze of the Kings, some other shooters. House of the Dead 2, I believe, is on Naomi. And then the big one. So then there's the Odd Gun game on PlayStation 2 as well. In the Technoparrot, this is where you have the newer generation of light gun games. There are some that are Patreon locked. So unless you have a Patreon access, with Technoparrot, you're not going to be able to play all the games. They eventually come off Patreon. So I think, off the top of my head, there's 40, give or take, 40 gun games that are playable right now. Big Buck Hunter. Terminator is a big one. Aliens is a big one. There's a couple of Transformers. Ones that I know, there's a Big Buck Hunter World. That one's still Patreon locked. The Walking Dead is currently still Patreon locked. Jurassic Park is not. So Jurassic Park you can play. But it's got newer titles: House of the Dead, House of the Dead 4, House of the Dead, Scarlet Dawn, things like Jurassic Park. I don't have a video for that one yet. Lethal Enforcers. So some of the media I still have to grab. But basically, the main thing that I do is everything you see has been built by me. So the cabinet and the arcade system, the controls, all that stuff built by me, built here in Ontario. The computer system, so obviously I didn't create the front end. I'm not claiming that I made the games or made the software and stuff, but the system, the integration, all of that stuff was done by me. So I know the system inside and out. And because of that, I'm able to service my customers much more efficiently than someone who, ships their machines from China, or you only have a Pandora's box or a Raspberry Pi, which you just flash an image every time it goes wrong. Everything is 100% customizable. Most people don't, for the most part. Like, so here, okay, I'm missing a video for Music Gun Gun 2. Right? So I'm missing some media. So eventually I'll fill in those gaps, and then I have a cloud service for my customers where I would upload it and just say, hey guys, I spent some time. I found the media for Music Gun Gun. Wow. And then I'll just say, hey, here's the cloud server. Go online. You can drag and drop it, put it on your machine, and then it's automatically there for you. So I'm able to update customers' machines. I do also have remote access if you let me. It's not like I can just sneak on your computer whenever you want. But through AnyDesk and stuff like that, we can remote on. So if there's any problems with the machine, if you're having problems with software, if you want to set up a system, hey, Derek, you don't have PlayStation 75 on this machine yet. I want to set that up. What I do for the customer is I would go and I would set up the emulator. I would probably download a game so that I can test it, map all the controls and stuff like that, upload all that information to the cloud where the customers can then download it and put that on their machine. And then they can go and choose and, like on PlayStation 3, for example, I don't know, maybe there's 1,000 games. Are you going to play 1,000 games on PlayStation 3? Maybe not. But you can go and download, maybe you want to play 5 different games. I'm going to show you how to download them, where to download them from, how to add those games to your system. Tens of thousands of games already on the system. I don't think it's efficient because I am personally making sure that your system is always up to date and it's always running and you never have problems with it. I can't possibly, set up 50,000 different games on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different systems. So basically what I've done is I've kind of curated the bulk of systems that people would like. Like I said, so currently, for example, I don't have Nintendo Switch on here because this model of the computer doesn't have a graphics card in it just so that you can play Nintendo Switch games. If I had a customer that said, hey, I absolutely need Nintendo Switch games, cool, let's pay a little bit extra money, or you can go buy the video card for me because it's an at cost upgrade. Go and buy the video card for me. I'll put it in your computer and stuff like that. And then I would go and set up some extra systems for that machine. We would probably need a separate hard drive because this hard drive is already full. Download the emulator, set up the emulator so that it works with the controls out of the box, and then provide the customer with where to get the games and stuff. And then they could download the games as they choose. Because again, do you need the entire Nintendo Switch library, or do you just want certain games? I want my Mario Kart and Mario Maker and different things like that. But basically, for the most part, if I have the systems on here, they are mostly full library, except when you get into like the PS2 and higher. Because I can't remember now if it's PS2 or PS3, but one of them is like 4 terabytes, I think. So obviously we're not going to do that just to fill up hundreds of dollars worth of hard drives on something you're never going to play. What else is there to know? I think that's basically it. I think that's it. We've got the speakers. Like I said, it's got the gun system if you want to add the gun system. Everything else, basically, you see the gun and the controller are the only things that's not stock. Really cheap upgrade. The guns are basically at cost if you were to buy them from, I won't mention the names of the companies just in case they don't want me to, but if you're in Ontario and you go and you get it from the big place in Ontario that sells arcade system stuff, basically what I'm selling the guns for. And I'll set up the guns and make sure they work and have them plug and play with your system and all calibrated and all that stuff. Basically for the same price as you're going to pay for the guns anyways. What else is there to know? I think that's it. There's obviously a trackball for all the people that want to play Golden Tee and stuff like that. Patreon locked. The Golden Tee is currently Patreon locked. I think, don't quote me on this, I think it's Golden Tee 2008, 9, and 10 that's available that are currently under Patreon. This machine as is will play up to 2K4 2006, I believe is what it is. So you'll still have like 12 different versions of Golden Tee. The newer Golden Tee systems, I think 8, 9, and 10 are the only ones that have been emulated so far. Correct me if I'm wrong. Playable on TechnoParrot, but currently Patreon locked. Will they come off Patreon at some point? Most likely. Is it tomorrow? Probably not. But again, I've got videos on here for my customers. So again, with the cloud drive and stuff, I've got videos on here where a customer will say, hey, there's this game in TechnoParrot that you don't have. I don't know. I did one as an example for a customer. Street Fighter Third Strike, maybe is what it's called, on the TechnoParrot emulator. Actually, I think I did it. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. Street Fighter Third Strike. So generally I've set up TechnoParrot for guns. It's almost all gun games. But then I made some tutorial videos for customers. They said, hey, I want to be able to add Street Fighter. I can see that's in the list of TechnoParrot games that aren't under Patreon lock. I want to go and download it and play it. TechnoParrot games you need to set up basically one at a time. So again, I'm not going to download 500 games and set them all up when 5 of them are what customers want to play. So I'll say, hey, here's the links. This is where we can get the games. This is how you set it up. And then customers are free to go and download what they want and add what they want. Or just enjoy the, I don't know what it is, probably 20,000, 25,000 unique titles that are already on the machine. I think that's it. I don't think there's much else to talk about. But if there is, leave a comment on this YouTube video. I can definitely answer any questions that you might have with it. Again, this is the top of the line model I have. So I have a Pro, a Premium, and an LE. This is the LE version, which is basically the top of the line one. And then there's the Premium, which is a step down. So basically, older generation computer. You lack the cloud drive update and stuff like that because computers slower. The game systems are locked down a little bit earlier just because your system won't play them. So it's not going to have like PS2 and PS3 and Dreamcast and GameCube and stuff like that because you won't have the controllers with it, so you wouldn't be playing those ones anyways. And then you've got the Pro model, which is even more stripped down, doesn't have graphics, doesn't have a trackball. It gets rid of all the bling, but would play the same games as the Premium model. So basically it's just you get more stuff. You get more stuff with the higher model machines. And I'm pretty sure the way I priced it, if I'm correct, between my Premium, my mid model, and my top model, the difference in cost is less than the cost of the products. So if you want that stuff, it's probably cheaper to buy the LE model than the Premium model and then going and buying the stuff yourself. Because I actually priced it where there's less to be made on the higher model machine than the top one or than the middle one. There we go. So that's the product overview of the LE model machine.